Hello. Hello. I'm here. Is everybody else here? 1, 2. Just checking. We seem to have audio. That's a good start. It's the Christmas. It's our Christmas thing.
It's Christmas! It's
Hello. Yeah, it is Christmas. It's that time when people in publishing end up a little bit stressed because they've got all their deadlines come at the same time. Okay. So I even put some Christmassy colours in the background. So I'm hoping that's. I'm just going to pause that. I don't want the Twitch. Let's pause that. So we should be live on Twitch and all that. Excuse me. Notifications blipped. Okay, so how are we all doing in the chat room? Let's check. We've got the IRC. IRC are there. And our Facebookies. Our YouTubers. Can't seem to get the Facebook thing to work, but it's a bit... Facebook is just not quite... the workflow doesn't quite fit with the way that we can do everything else, which is a shame. 'Tis the season to be sneezy. That's a very... Oops, that's the wrong one, isn't it? I'm looking at... That's the one I want. 'Tis the season... Yeah, I've so far avoided it. I'm hoping that I get it, if I'm going to get it, in the next week or so, because you don't want it... I don't want it at NAMM. Audio Nerd, yes, I have got new glasses. In fact, these are my new varifocal glasses, so I can look down and see things very close up. And although... they didn't quite get the intermediate lengthwise, because my screen, or my main laptop screen, is about an arm's length away from me, and the focal length is about half an arm's length, so it doesn't quite work in the same way. And now I understand why people do this all the time. Look down their noses, because that's where the close-up stuff is. But anyway. But yes, I want to say thank you very much to my local optician for getting them in quick. But I think I'm going to have to go and tweak them because they gave me some close-up specs as well, which are fixed at the intermediate, and I can't see the screen with them, and I have to use something else. So it's anyway, whatever. Okay. Happy holidays to everybody. Yeah, I can see you. Thank you very much. I'm not going to Pastramovich. Wow, I can't pronounce that. And everybody else. Right. So this week we've got Gaz, we've got Matt Hodson, and we've got Dave Spears, who are all going to be joining us in a little while. So hopefully you can all enjoy... Let me see, I might actually download this because this might be a bit more... Can I download that? Oh, no, that's not going to work. I've got my little... Yeah, anyway. So, hope everybody's been well. What's going on in the world? Well, actually, probably don't want to talk about what's going on in the world, frankly. It's too depressing. But what's going not... There's nothing to do with world events. What's going on for people who've got nothing to do with world events? That would probably be a bit more interesting. We have a guest. We've got Matthew Hodson right there. There he is.
Hello.
He's fired up his video studio. How are you, Matt?
All right, mate. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you absolutely fine, yes.
Oh, happy days.
Let's see. I think we'll have to go to a 4 to have you. Yeah, we got a left and right screen there when the other people show up. You see, I've gone for a slight Christmas coloration in the background, and I've actually got the Christmas hat, which is this very cheap hat I bought from a pound shop when we had our offices in town, probably about 6 years ago, and it seems to be the one I wear in the Christmas special. Although special is a word perhaps bandied around quite a lot in Christmassy circles. This isn't particularly special. It's just a sort of it is at Christmas, if you see what I mean.
Well, it's
Although we have had Christmas specials where there have been people in the office and we've had maybe a drink or two, and it's been quite fun. But that's not happening this time. Everybody's.
But this is the last one before Christmas, right?
It is, yeah. Next one is going to be 2nd of January, I think.
All right.
Next week is next Wednesday is Boxing Day, I believe. And is that right? Yes. Next Wednesday is Boxing Day, and the week after that is New Year's. No, yeah. So the week after that is the 2nd.
Okay.
I haven't quite got my head around it yet, but it'll all work out.
Well, it's the Christmas special then, and I should have put my Santa's hat on.
So I'm sorry about that.
I should have brought it in.
You're kind of new here, so you probably wouldn't have realised that. Dave said he might try and get a tree into the studio, but I thought that was a bit ambitious, frankly. I think he was joking. At least I hope he was. I could just picture it, Yeah, particularly in this weather. A tree full of critters and dripping moisture all over his synths. It's not going to be a good thing to do. Anyway, Matt, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you. Yeah, sort of winding down for Christmas. Well, I say that. I mean, you know what it's like. Things get busy and things get quiet in different ways at Christmas time for us musicians, from one thing to another.
Yeah,
you
got any performances or anything, or you've just got deadlines that?
No, just deadlines to work on, some self-imposed deadlines and that kind of thing as well. So probably spending a lot of time in here over the next few weeks, that kind of thing, really. I've got plenty of toys that I haven't had time to play with as much as I really wanted to. Things like Sculpt, and been playing a lot with the Torres by Pioneer, the SP16. Have you checked that out?
I've heard a lot of good stuff about it, but I'm just not really a kind of NPC guy. So it would take, I'd have to kind of get to know that whole world to really be able to evaluate it from a kind of user perspective. Do you know what I mean? So it's sort of,
it's been one of these. It's the kind of link that I've been looking for, working with this sort of thing, something to handle drums. But I'm actually doing all of the sequencing from it. So I'm sending that into the Expert Sleepers module here, which basically converts MIDI to CV.
Right.
And then it sequences all of this, and it's all in time, and it plays back loops and one shots, and I feed audio back into it and that kind of thing. It's very, very powerful unit, and I know what you mean about the not being part of the sort of NPC crew. I'm not really, but this is
just out of interest, what made you go for that as opposed to the NPC Live, which is really quite impressive for that as well, I think, because it'll play stems and whatnot if you need it to.
Yeah, actually, I've got the NPC Live sat down here. I found that this Pioneer, the SP16, is really performative. So it's very hands-on, and that's something you want when you're playing live. It's got the Dave Smith filter, which you can either have over the master or on specific tracks, 1 or 2 tracks only. Other than that, they're very similar. It was just the fact that it's really hands-on and you can really jam with it, and it's very tactile like this. That was the killer for me, basically.
That's really interesting, because it's a bit of a slow burner, isn't it? Because they're still pushing it, and the OS is still getting updates, isn't it? I think. Because somebody from Pioneer recently got in touch and said, "Would I be interested in a review?" And it was like, well, even though it's kind of old, I mean, in terms of the review cycle, anyway. I mean, it's not in terms of gear, but I mean. It's interesting.
It's been out for some time. I just haven't had. I've just now landed with one, and I was quite fortunate enough for the rep to come down who showed me it, because we're looking at maybe buying some of these things as well for BIM and that kind of thing. So spent a week or so with it, and I was blown away with it. There's some things that it doesn't do, but I think they're looking at this with firmware updates and what have you. They obviously they couldn't say anything or commit to anything, but there's some things that I think that they're going to be looking at that's going to be changing. But it sounds great. The outputs on it are so chunky and so beefy. And it comes loaded with a load of great samples from Loop Masters, I think, as well. So it's just loaded with some cool stuff. So the effects are pretty cool as well. Delays in there. The reverbs aren't too bad. The way it handles the onboard mixing is quite is quite interesting as well. You've got an assignable touchpad as well that you can assign to things like delays and reverbs or volume control and that kind of thing. Really,
Let me see
it's
if I can find a
it's
picture
a cool
of it.
device.
Torais Pioneer.
Yeah,
Pioneer
SP16.
SP16, isn't it?
Yeah.
SP16.
So you,
Let's just find an image of it. Images.
yeah.
Gosh, is that's a bit? No, that's a site that's just going to throw up a load of pop-ups and stuff. Isn't it always?
There
we go.
That's it. That's it. So you got a touch screen as well on it, which is very, very usable.
Right.
You've got the
little touch fader that you get.
pad.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, and then you've got the Dave Smith filters at the top, high pass, low pass.
Has it got
You've
enough
a
output?
gain on it. Yeah, I think it's just got picked up this morning, so I haven't got it in front of me. But yeah, it's got your main left and right headphone, which you can assign pretty much anything out the headphone. I think it's got 6 audio outputs, stereo input, which it's really easy to resample as well internally or from an external audio source. So what I do is send some stuff from the modular. I might have an interesting loop, and I can just literally loop that up as if, like you might do on a Chaos pad or something like that, and then transition into the next track. It is expensive though, but I can tell there's a lot gone into this, and looking around the various forums and on the Pioneer website, they're asking people, what do you want to see from this as we move forward with it? And I expect we're going to see something in the new year about some
sort of. I don't know what OS it's up to. Is it done 2.0 or is it? I can't remember.
It's not to 2.0 yet. I think it's 1.5. I think is the latest we're on that one.
It's difficult, isn't it, the sort of thing? Because if it doesn't immediately capture the imagination, you've either got to kind of do a revision of some kind, or you've got to have a really big, chunky, or a price drop or something to kind of bring it back into the public consciousness. Because we're very fickle when it comes to new stuff. It's sort of we tend to file things away. Oh, it's old, it therefore can't be, as good as something that's newer. But that's not always the case, is it?
I know what you mean. I mean, when did it come out? I think it came out a
couple of years ago, I think.
Like yeah,
I think
so. But the Akai MPC Live's been out. That's had a bit of an update as well recently. That's had some juicy things added to it. Some new plugins and some new functionality in it. So I've tried that out. I've tried the Roland TR8S as well, which is much more of a straightforward kind of drum machine, with onboard effects and that kind of thing. You can load samples into it, but
it's supposed to be very good. I've heard good things about it, but it's just not quite as flexible as the MPC style thing which is designed perhaps for running more samples. Actually, that was the interesting thing. I can't remember what it was, the MPD-X, wasn't it, that Chris was using from the Battery Operated Orchestra, just running track stems off that. That was genius. I really like the way that worked.
That's it. If you want something for running stems, you're going to probably want something like that as a minimum. I guess then you just got to, like you say, it's got to capture your imagination. You got to think, then what am I going to do with this when I play live? What functionality do I want? Start and stopping stuff, fading stuff in and out, filtering stuff, resampling stuff. Depends where you want to go with it, basically.
Absolutely.
The funny thing about the Roland TR8S, because you can load samples into it and it's not really for stemming, I was actually loading long samples into it and then kind of re-triggering them at weird times, and you can end up with some quite glitchy, interesting artifacts that you shouldn't really get out of it because you're playing samples back at the wrong speed and the wrong time and that kind of thing. So that was quite interesting. But cool. It doesn't quite offer that same. Oh, that looks like Dave's here.
Oh, look, we have a Dave Spears.
Hey.
Oh,
hello.
I think you might be back on your. Maybe.
Oh, no. Is it this one? Hang on. Ready?
Oh, yeah, that's working. That's working.
Is it?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, good.
That went duff, so I'm guessing it must be. So there we go. We have
it's
some
not
Christmas.
That one.
No, it's not. It's not.
Good.
I like that. Oh, look, there we go. And there's Gaz too.
Hiya.
Hey, Gaz.
Nick of time. The nick of time.
Perfect.
I just... I had my car was being MOT'd and it was really close.
Oh, one of those,
I managed. Whew.
Oh, don't talk to me about cars. I've got
no.
so I've got a really quite an old car that was given to me by my father-in-law, and it's got one of these keys, which is like a sort of, and this one's knackered and worn out. And the problem is, because there's no key, it's got to have some sort of special chip thing. To have this replaced, the only way I can get it replaced is to have them make me a new one in a factory at Renault in France. It's going to take 10 days, and it's going to cost me £260, which is probably about half the value of the car.
I had a similar thing with my old Citroen, actually. I had to do it too, and it cost me about 300 quid, I think. Similar. And that hurt.
You just feel, and not only that, but the blower fan went. I've just had that fit. This isn't all about cars, is it? But I suppose it's just never mind. Never mind. Anyway, we're just so we have everybody, and everybody has their the right thirds. That's good news. Excellent. Well,
Hooray!
I think. I'll put this on in a second, because then it can be a moment at the beginning of the podcast, can't it? Or not? Let me see. Right. So, okay. Well, we're actually. I think we're in a position to do a show, are we not? So let's do it. Let's just get myself ready to catch the Facebook thing. Okay, stand by, everybody. Here we go. Hello, everybody, and guess what time it is? It is...
It's Christmas!
There we go. There we go. I've got to shut this down now because it's going to start playing something else. So there we are. It's the legendary... Oops, I put that on the other side. The Sonic Talk Christmas Special. And this is the Christmas Special hat that I think has now... This must be its 7th or 8th. I finally found it. Unfortunately, nothing terrible has happened to it. I remember buying this when we had our old premises and we were in the centre of town, and there was a joke shop round the corner, and I bought it in a joke shop for 50p or a pound shop, and it's stayed with me ever since. And I've changed the lights as well, look, to kind of make it a bit more Christmassy. So welcome. This is the Sonic Talk Christmas Special. I use the term special in more of a kind of... Well, not in a non-special way, because I haven't got anything special planned. It's just the last show before Christmas, and this podcast happens to be to do with music technology and all those sort of things. So it's probably a little bit of a misleading title, but I'm going to use it anyway in the title and as clickbait, because I'll be on holiday for a week. Well, not on holiday, but we have a week off next week. Next show is going to be the 2nd of January. I want to say thank you to our sponsors, Isotope. They'll be sending a competition our way where we can win a copy of RX-7, which is their fantastic audio restoration bundle. So let's get on to our guests. We'll start with, let's see, Mr. Dave Spears, who's there in his synth cave. Well, I think this is Synth Cave B, isn't it? This isn't the actual...
Yes.
This is the second tier synth cave, right?
Yeah, this is the Porpoise Synth Cave.
This is where he masterminds the GeForce Empire from, the software empire, and evaluates beautiful poly... Is that the CS60 next to you?
Yes, all nicely fixed. I couldn't work out. I was like, it's constantly going out of tune. And then it was like always out of tune. And then it was like some notes were out of tune. And then I called Kent and went, another one's gone wrong. And he said, oh, that sounds like a da-da-da-da-da. So, yes, he's had a lot of soldering to do. So it came back and it works beautifully now. So thank you, Kent, again.
Excellent. Well, Kent, he had a look at...
We're kind of constantly doing swaps, you see.
He had a look at my CS15, which is a lot better, but it's still got a crackly VCA, and I didn't have the heart to say, Kent, it's still crackling a bit, but he might find out. I'll maybe next year sometime I'll get round to it. But anyway, Dave, this is when do you stop for Christmas? Are you stopping soon, or are you kind of powering on through?
I don't know. Yeah, lots to do. Yeah, sorry, I didn't get all festived up. We don't really have anything festive at the minute. My missus doesn't buy Christmas trees. She kind of does. In fact, we've got a really cool thing. It's like loads of lampshades with the fabric taken off, and they're all stacked up, and lights and stuff. So that's about as Christmassy as we've got. Normally, I've got my hat
about the place. Yeah. Oh well.
No, I did look.
I'll fly the flag. I will fly the flag. It's no problem. And here I am. Ho ho ho. Anyway, next guest. Let's say hello to Mr. Matthew Hodson, who is there in his studio in Brighton area. Matthew, of course,
hello.
Producer, educator, works at BIM. I keep saying course director. Is that about right? I forget what it sounds
Course
good.
leader,
Course director. Sound.
Yeah,
I like the sound of that.
I'm not in charge of the whole thing, but they put me in charge of a few things. But yeah, I run the course, the music production course there, the degree. I feel like I should have had my Santa's hat on now. I feel really bad.
I'm so sorry. I didn't. Well, you're new, really, relatively. You haven't done a Christmas before.
Aren't I?
So you're a Sonic Talk Christmas virgin, as it were.
Yeah.
So next year you'll know.
I've made it onto the Christmas special, so
whoa,
yes.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me.
Now you can end your year with a bang or more like a damp squib, perhaps. But I'm glad. Thank you for joining us, Matthew. It's been
nice one. Good to be back.
It's lovely to have you. And of course we have Mr. Gaz Williams, who's got a sort of Christmassy jacket. That's
and a
sort of
Santa
Santa-y. Gaz Williams, of course, bass player, music producer, and all of those things.
I'm the most Santa-y, I reckon, out of us lot.
Now, I've got a hold on. I'm thinking there needs to be like a Santa convention held on Santorini. The island of Santorini, doesn't it? Surely.
Have you seen that all those Santas having a scrap that's doing the rounds on, loads of them in the street?
No, I haven't.
I don't know what on earth went on, but it was about 20 Santas all like having a big punch up in the street.
I know, I haven't seen that. I did see the one where the guy is obviously coming to a little island by boat, and he sort of leaps off, trips over, and falls flat face first into the sea. And it's a very it's not a very elegant arrival. And I hope the presents were okay. Anyway, Gaz, thank you for joining us. Gaz, of course, you'll see him featured in our Cubase 10 review, which went up today.
Righty.
Fast turnaround, yeah. So you can check that out, where you were appraising the various different, and your fabulous Christmas ditty, which I think everybody should hear. It was the online order Christmas lament, I think we ended up calling it. But yes, great fun.
Yes.
Okay, so, there's not much of an agenda this week because, there's not an awful lot of massive news that comes out just before Christmas. You do get kind of minor software updates and all that kind of thing. So let's see what if I reach into my Santa's sack of topics. Now, there's a Christmas allegory for you. What could we possibly have? The virtual pulling out of here we go. Here's a topic. Right. I guess 2019 highlights might be a good place to start because ultimately, we're at the end of the year. We didn't do any awards or anything, or roundups. We do occasionally do those things, but we didn't this year. So I'm just wondering if anybody got any kind of music tech highlights for the year. I'm going to start with mine, if you don't mind, because what I did is I went back and looked at all the kind of Sonic Lab reviews, because the thing is when you just review things, they don't always become something that you would use. So they're not always fresh in your mind, So that's my excuse. So I went back to look at all the reviews and all the Sonic Labs, and I thought, right, the first highlights. I would have to say, I think the Behringer Neutron actually featured quite highly in there because it's a great sounding synth. It was one of the first real budget announcements of coming out from the Behringer guys, and it sounds really damn good, and I don't know if anybody else has tried that, so that was one for me. The other one was Loop Cloud 2.0 2.0, which I think has just come out. That's really cool with user samples. In fact, we've got a video coming up, and that's probably something to try over the holidays. Actually, it's all totally free, and you can now add your own user samples, which means all of the samples on your drive get indexed and tagged, and it sort of auto tags as well, and auto kind of has a go at things, and you can use it so that it would run all of your projects. Anything you record, it'll analyze the audio there if you tell it in a folder and console. That's really neat. And that was it. So those are a couple for me. So let's see, Gaz, you're looking expectant, like you might have something to add. I do hope so, because I know it's a bit of a big topic, isn't it? It's quite difficult.
Well, I think it's been a great year. There's been some amazing things this year. And obviously doing what we do, we kind of get exposed to loads of it. So actually picking a best is actually quite tricky. I've got a few, but for me, it's like a toss up at the moment between there's one by here, the Medusa, which I think kudos to Polyend and Dreadbox for making something that is genuinely new and different. I think it's had a little bit of a stormy sort of entrance into the world, but I've got a beta firmware at the moment that again, it's just getting better and better all the time. And it's such an original idea in many ways. There's so many fresh and interesting kind of a collision of all sorts of stuff.
I take your point. This is what it looks like, in case anybody's wondering what it is. This is the Dreadbox Medusa. Available on Sweetwater. It's about $1,100, but there you go. Yeah, we reviewed that, and I must admit I did like it. I think at the time I was it was early days in the firmware, so perhaps there were some things that hadn't been totally sussed.
And I think that's the slightly unfortunate thing when it came out. I think the firmware has gone through several iterations so far, and I know that there's a lot more to come, and that's been really cool. But the other one, it's a toss up between is the Noodler, or it's spelled NDLR.
Really, you've really taken a shine to that, have you? Okay,
I'm gonna go live tonight, 8 p.m. GMT. With a live stream of the Noodler. So if anyone wants to tune in on my YouTube channel, I'm going to be sort of demonstrating it a little bit, because I think why I really like that is basically what it is, just for those of you who don't know, it's essentially a MIDI generator, I guess. It doesn't create sounds of its own. It just it's like a super duper arpeggiator drone machine. It does a bunch of things, but it's the way it all kind of comes together. And like for people who've got similar setups to me, which is like lots of desktop-y sort of synths, and certainly, well, it would work with in many. You can use it just with software.
Yeah, it's a MIDI kind of composition and sort of jamming engine, right?
Jamming engine, yeah. And I think where I particularly love it, and I'll definitely get into this tonight, is that with all these great hands-on synths, when you've got a bunch of them, you've only got so many hands, and
so this really can play them all, and you can then just tweak.
Yeah, it is.
Okay,
it's like
that's
super helpful set of helping hands, and it really does take you places. I mentioned it, I think, like last week. What's really interesting is when you start applying LFOs to change the kind of key and the scale and the chords and different things like that, so you can have it.
So that's Oh, well, so that'll be on your YouTube channel tonight. I'm getting reports from the chat room. I'm very sorry. Lots of people apparently turning to stone because I showed them a picture of the Medusa. Bada bing!
Oh, yeah.
There we go. Yeah. Mr. Spears, that groan can introduce you to this. I know it's... I mean... We're probably a little bit different, main Gaz, because we get to see a lot of things because we review, whereas perhaps, from your point of view, it's not quite such an easy thing, because it may be something you've been introduced to this year that wasn't actually new, but is new to you in the year, if you see what I mean.
Yeah. I mean, I live in the 70s, so it's quite difficult for me to transport through time into the modern day.
The 8-track cassette player.
Yes, exactly. 8-track cartridge, quadraphonic sound system. Peak, obviously. But that was 2017, wasn't it? That came out, so not officially 2018, although the firmware comes out, I think it's today.
The 1.2, yeah.
Yeah, so that's kind of about as modern as I get. And then you and Gaz recommended the Ventris, which I bought and like a lot. The dual
That's a good
thing,
call.
Yeah,
which I definitely use. And other than that, blimey, I've got to find a way of plugging something of ours. Oh, Vol 4, the Vol 4 Streetly tapes. They're the best thing that happened in 2018, certainly to me, because they were actually, in truth, they were a complete surprise. The Streetly guys contacted us and went, we found a load more stuff in the back of the cupboard, and I thought, I send it through anyway, I'll have a listen. And there were some things in there that that had never been released. These string inversions, which kind of all work around one particular key, and they were just magic. And as soon as I heard those, I was like, we're doing this. What else? I think that's and I've done a CD, which I handily have here, which it won't be out till 2019, but that's quite good. That's an old school book. I wasn't a good pupil. And then there's loads I like this though. Look, that looks like a record.
Oh, nice. That's good.
That's a neat touch.
Hey, look, I can play it. Look, I've got a little bit of the intro to that. This is the intro to one of your tracks, which I love. Yeah, that's the 70s. I like that. Check that out.
And then there's look.
Oh, nice.
So my parents have kept all my old school reports and books. Now, why they did this, I have no idea. I think what it was because I wasn't a model pupil and most of the reports weren't good. But I think they kept them in order to show to me when I had kids and they were playing up. But thankfully for me, my daughter's been a straight A student and graduated with the first, so that opportunity never arose. But it's been interesting reading things like
Must Try Harder.
Well, no, this is brilliant. This is the second time you have gaily handed in your book without doing any homework. What kind of game do you think you're playing? There you go. So that's all included.
Excellent. So you get it's a brief history of Dave, effectively. That sounds great.
It's kind of, the whole concept is about growing up in the 70s, or not growing up in the 70s. So yeah, it goes through all the styles. So that was the glam track, and then there's a 4-part epic prog track, and there's loads of stuff. So yes, that's
nice.
2019 sort of.
Nice. Well, I like the sound of that. I can't wait to hear those. I know you've been working on it for quite a long time. Okay, Matt, over to you now, because I mean, I guess you get like pitched a lot of things because people are probably trying to. Well, you're a modular user, so you must be fairly well glued to the pages when it comes to new stuff, and also you probably get pitched a load of stuff at educational colleges. People are always trying to get you to use things, right?
Yeah, but I'm always on the lookout as well. I go to as many conferences as I can throughout the year, music technology conferences. If you see me, by the way, come say hello. And I'm usually just checking out to see what's out, new hardware, software, what's on the horizon. It's just important that we keep using the most up-to-date things and looking at the future of music production. So yes, you're right. There's probably some. I won't go on too much about modular, as always. But this was pretty cool. This came out this year. This was 4-output complex envelope module by Chaos Devices called Zadar, which is really cool. When the screen's on, you can see all the waveforms on it, and it does really complex waveforms. Great little thing. Really, really cool. That came out. Mutable Instruments did some great oscillators called Platts.
Yeah, that was a big one, wasn't it?
I've just had made. Yeah.
We're lucky to get them because this stuff sells out so quick, doesn't it?
Yeah, well, these I've just had made, which are in a 6 HP, so they're made really small. A guy made them for me over in Spain, and they just arrived this week. So I use them now for polyphonic voices. So I've got three voices, but there's so many different waveforms and timbre you can pull out from them. It's great. What else? Oh yeah, in terms of hardware small synths, I think Sculpt was cool, bimodal.
Yeah, I was going to say that. I found it's got some lovely sweet spots. Really is quite a nice synth.
You know, for the category of small but powerful and goes in your backpack and just sounds awesome, definitely. And for the price, I just bought myself this as a little Christmas present, which is the Roland VT4. Because I can't sing, this is perfect for me because it does vocoding, it does harmonizing, and it does that via MIDI. And I'm going to integrate this with a modular. I'm going to run it through some VCAs here and kind of sequence the VCAs open and closes as I'm using vocals. So I'm going to try out some vocals over Christmas. That's something new for me to do.
Wow, okay.
And then there was some software. Of course, I think, didn't Ableton 10 came out this year, this year? And I think that was a really good update. I mean, I'm big time Ableton user now anyway, but I just think that's still fantastic the way it works with Max for Live and all that kind of world if you're into it. And also Autoria brought out the Buchla VST this year, I believe.
I think so, yeah. I just can't get my head around the way that kind of synthesis works. So I tried.
I treated myself to it on Black Friday. Yeah, I bought it on Black Friday, and I just think it's a really good one to sort of sit down and play around with. And particularly if you're interested about working with a Buchla and you don't want to spend 10, 20 grand on whatever they are, you can just get the plugin, try that out.
While you're saving up.
And then, while you're saving up. And then I think VCV Rack, that was something that came out this year, along with Cherry Audio's Vaulted Modular as well. So it's been a bit of a year for kind of like VST modular stuff that came out. And they've both got some pros and cons of each. They're quite different. Obviously, there's a lot of free stuff you can get in VCV Rack, but Vaulted Modular's got this ability to build your own custom modules in there now for free and that kind of thing. If you want to start selling them, you then pay for a kind of additional upgrade to do that. But I think there've been some really interesting software stuff. So Ableton, the Buchla, VCV Rack, cool.
Excellent.
Yeah.
I noticed nobody mentioned the Moog One, funnily enough, which is weird because it's like it was such a milestone in terms of release, but it doesn't seem to have quite.
Pretending it's
Yeah,
pretending
we
it's
can't,
not
none of us can
available
afford it, so we just go, we'll
exactly.
ignore that.
Yeah.
I mean, there are. I mean, like Electron smashed it out of the park with the Digitone, which is fantastic.
Right.
That was this year, wasn't it, as well?
So I suppose so.
The OPZ as well, which is a review coming soon. I'm enjoying that. That's another one this year as well, isn't it?
That's
Loads
true.
of things this year.
Well, I mean, to be fair, it was actually announced about 4 years ago, wasn't it? But so it's sort of I suppose. But that's almost back to the 1970s, Dave. Yeah, it's finally been released.
Yeah.
Excellent. I suppose there's a lot of stuff. I mean, who knows what the next year will bring, because obviously 2019, another year. It seems to me at the moment it's wavetables. I'm probably 1 or 2 announcements a week of a VST to do with wavetable synthesis. Obviously, the Arturia thing came out earlier the last week or something, and I've been looking at that. It's actually quite good. And then there's some other stuff. There's the Yuhi Diva got some wavetable capabilities, a lot actually, which is supposed to be really good. Dave, I don't suppose you're working on wavetable synth. That would probably be the signifier just to how mainstream wavetables become. But I don't know. You're not, are you? Oh no,
I can't say anything. If I say anything, they'll just beat me up. And then Father Christmas won't visit this year, and I'll be depressed. Not really, no.
Okay, that's fine. Well, it's unofficial. You heard it. You didn't hear it here, folks, as it were. There's also, I think, there's a new synth coming. I mean, Nectar are doing something called Bolt, which I believe is coming out soon. I think that's just, there was a leak, wasn't there? Let me see if I've got it somewhere. I'm trying to find it now. Where is it? Oh yeah, here we go. This was on Gear News, and this is Julian Wasserman playing some stuff on the Bolt. And I think the news of that is going to be coming out like real soon. I could tell you more, but I've been told I can't because I had to sign an NDA. But a couple of days and it'll all be out there. But that's quite interesting because up to now they've basically been hardware, haven't they? So this is a kind of new direction for them. And so I don't know. In terms of next year, I wonder what the trend. That's another thing I suppose we could do. I mean, this is a signifier. I'm making up these topics as I go along. Trends for next year. What do you think's going to happen next year in this area? Now that's the sort of thing that people ask me, and honestly, I'm not sure if I have any idea whatsoever. It's really difficult to to call that one. I think we're going to see a few more polysynths enter the market. Because we've had loads of monosynths, and I think some of these Behringer clones are going to models are going to come out. We're going to see them actually. The MS-101s making it into the channels. So there's going to be a kind of a lot of low price mono synths coming into the market. And I was thinking about this the other day. The explosion in mono synths makes kind of a certain amount of sense, because to buy a complex synthesizer, if you're buying a polyphonic one, it's a lot of money. Whereas if you want some hands-on stuff, a monosynth makes a lot of sense because it's a small thing that you can actually get creative with and tweak. And you've probably got a lot more parameters than you would do with a poly, because poly by its very nature tends to be simplified, because a lot of the places it can go are not really appropriate for polyphonic work. But then if you're using polyphonic synthesizers, you might well use plugins because you can use more instances of them and you've got more kind of scalability of patches. So I wonder whether we're going to see some more affordable polys come in that start to challenge that kind of notion. I don't know. I'd go to you, Dave. Do you think we're going to see some more hardware polys, like more sort of affordable ones? Because for a time, that affordable side of things is a difficult slot to fill. We've seen obviously the Moog One, which is massively expensive, or maybe we're just going to see some really big, expensive powerhouses.
Yeah. I know of 2 things that are happening next year, which are both going to be pretty brilliant, but obviously I can't say any more than that at all.
That's
fair
hardware.
Enough. That's hardware, and they're pretty exciting. But yes, I don't know. I'm not even sure whether I agree with you on the mono versus poly thing either.
Okay.
But I'll have to think about that a bit more, because actually I like really complex poly synths, so that you've got the versatility. It's like, I'll use it in mono mode or in unison mode, and I'll get those sounds out of it, or I use it in poly mode and get those sounds out of it. I mean, for me, this playability's become... Actually, what is really fascinating is Somebody said, emailed me and said that they'd looked up a really old Sonic Talk, and it
We
was
were
a
banging
day.
on about the same stuff.
Well, no, but it was very, very pre-analog anything new coming out. I mean, it was really fascinating. It was the day I'd taken delivery. In fact, I remember it quite well, of a Prophet 10. And I had no room in my old garage. And Chris had kind of bought it as a bit of a wind-up, really, more than anything else, knowing full well that it was going to be delivered to the house about 10 minutes before the podcast started. And if it was left in the hall, my missus would have gone completely insane. So I had to kind of wrestle it into the room. But actually, what we were talking about it as a result of his email, and there was a bit of a dialogue. And we were both saying, isn't it amazing how the kind of analog explosion has happened since then? And how it's really, really ubiquitous. But, back then it really wasn't. I don't remember how many years ago that was, but it is amazing. And it shows no signs of abating. I mean, the Moog One's interesting, but it's
rarefied, isn't it? It's not the sort of thing that many people are going to be able to afford. Although, but when you check the activity, well, I suppose you would on the Moog One Facebook group, you'd see lots of people have got it. But then I guess they're by their very nature, because they're in the group, it's more likely. I don't know, Matt, what do you think? What do you think's coming?
Yeah, well, on my little podcast video thing that I do once a month, I was talking to Ben, DivKid, and Nathan Moody about where things might be going in this sort of world, obviously in the modular world and what have you. And we're seeing some really interesting developments. Particularly, there's this new some really powerful modules coming out. There's one on Kickstarter right now by Percussor, which it's probably one of the most advanced.
SS something or other, is it? The DSP thing?
MSSP, which they did a big one. They did a Kickstarter earlier this year, which made it, and it's really big, massive module. Now they've done a baby version, which comes with a Mac and PC editor. It's about 6 days away from its Kickstarter, and I've backed this one because it is so powerful. It's one of those modules. It could be a drum machine. It can do granular stuff. It can do wavetable. It can do nice chords and poly stuff. So I'm just seeing a lot of that, and I'm just interested to see where this goes now. Are we at saturation point in the modular world of how many modules are out there and buying and selling? The second-hand market's just crazy now in terms of, if you want to sell anything, it takes a lot longer than it used to. You used to just stick stuff up on eBay and it'd be gone the next day. Now it can take a lot longer. So I'm interested to see where we're going to go with this sort of power and capability, particularly of this Percussor, and just seeing what people are coming up with and what ideas they've got in that world. I think maybe we'll see some cross pollination. So there's sort of something that bridges the gap between the modular and the rest of the world a bit more as well. Yeah, I hope so. We've kind of got that, and this is maybe something that came out this year that deserves a mention. Is the FH2 by Expert Sleepers, which is a module that converts MIDI to CV, and it's expandable up to 64 voices. It's really good, and it comes with an editor that you can program. I've been using it with the Pioneer SP16 recently, and it's just awesome. But I definitely would like to see. I'd like to see manufacturers for mixers getting together with the modular people and looking at making something that works for them. So not necessarily something that has to go in a rack, but not something that's a DJ mixer either. It could be standalone, but it has lots of I/O on it that works maybe with CV and MIDI and effects.
I'm with you. I think what they should do, if you don't mind me butting in there, is to create something that's actually part of a Eurorack case. So the mixer is in the lid and it flips down and it's there. What? So you end up with, you flip it down and the mixer's there, and then all your modules are up there, and that's it. And there's maybe some busing that goes in between it. That would make sense.
That's a great idea. Just something like that. Okay. The case is the mixer. That sort of thing. Should we get it on? Start this on Kickstarter.
Yeah, it might be a bit of work to go before we get there, but we could do maybe some drawings on some napkins and put it up there and just sort of go aim for, I don't know, what should we say, like a couple of million or something, and then. By the time we've raised that sort of cash, we'll have enough to pay someone to actually execute the idea, right?
Exactly. Right, I've got some napkins. We'll get this started. The other thing is as well, been buying synths for so long, and crikey, you know, I kind of feel like, do we need any more synths? Have we got enough synths out there? What we're looking for in new synthesizers and drum machines when they come out, we've got so much you can get out of them. I think the big thing, I think Dave mentioned this briefly, was this kind of playability within them, you know, and I've talked about this before about things just coming out with keyboards and a few sliders and dials. I'm just looking at interesting ways of really someone who's performing with a keyboard or a synthesizer being able, just by routing, making complex routings, you know, turn one dial which can manipulate a lot of modulation, and it's very integrated with the playability, you know, that just that interface, just getting that interface right, I think, and modernizing that a little bit more. You can keep chucking synthesizers out all you want about polys, monophonic, Behringer doing their clones, whatever, but I just think the next step is looking at some kind of real performative
maybe that's the answer.
That kind of
maybe
thing.
That's the answer. I know, Gaz, I know you like to perform, so maybe that's something you would concur with.
Oh yeah, definitely. And I think, just rolling back a little bit to what Dave was saying, because of all this analog stuff, you know, we've been spoiled for choice with analog in recent years. It feels like there's been like a thaw in sort of VA and that kind of thing, and actually having combined digital and analog situations like the Medusa, which is obviously 3 analog oscillators and 3 digital oscillators. So I think we're going to see more digital analog hybrid things, you know, where there's an embracing of digital, whereas, you know, before, when we didn't have the analog choices, we were kind of looking at the shortcomings of digital. So I think we're going to see more things which are actually exploiting digital. You know, the GR1 came out, I think that was this year as well, which granular, really great hands-on granular desktop. I'm all about the desktop modules, you see. So, hands-on granular stuff, I think, there's still a lot of mileage in there. The GR1's brilliant, but I still think there's room for more things like that. FM has had a fantastic resurgence, hasn't it, in the last couple of years, in the Digitone, the Yamaha Modi X, and some various other things. So I'm wondering whether more things which are, you know, possibly hybrids of FM and digital, obviously FM, digital and analog, just this idea that's more combinations of things, less of a kind of snobbery around pure analog, and a little bit more embracing of, you know, mixing up the different elements. I reckon there'll be something like that, more things like that coming. Also, I'd like to see more MPE, actually backing up what Matt's saying about, you know, performative things more. Now MPE has been standardized, and, you know, like we mentioned in the Cubase feature there, Cubase 10 has kind of got like an MPE native sort of support for MPE devices. So I'd like to see more MPE things, and that could be all sorts of things, couldn't it? You know, it doesn't have to be just Rowley-esque or Lindstrom type stuff. So I'm keen to see people exploiting what MPE could actually be, you know, in ways that we haven't even, you know, thought about. So I think that.
I think that's good. Actually, that reminded me, you mentioned that. The Continuum Mini that came out with, just got the synth engine built into it. I saw some videos that Loop Pop did, and I hadn't really, because it was filmed at Superbooth. I didn't actually shoot the video, so I didn't really get it. And when I saw it, I was like, wow, that's a really cool idea. And it's the mini one has got the sound source built in, and it's actually a decent. You know, it's affordable, but it's very expressive. It also does MPE, but I just thought I'd mention that in there. Yes, Scott from Canada in the chat room says it's time for a commercial, Nick. You're absolutely right, and I'm going to bring in a little word from our friends at Isotope, so please enjoy.
RX continues to be the industry standard and leader in audio repair for music and post-production. And with RX-7, we've introduced groundbreaking new ways to quickly and easily fix and manipulate audio. Take the game-changing Repair Assistant, an intelligent helper that can detect noise, clipping, clicks, hum, and more, Also new in RX7 is Music Rebalance, a powerful source separation tool. Drums too loud? Vocals not loud enough? Let's fix that. You can also create instrumental versions of songs by removing the vocal elements. You can now alter the pitch without affecting the timing of your audio, and conversely, alter the time without affecting the pitch with the new variable time and variable pitch modules. Using the new dialogue contour, you can improve the performance of a line or even create a new performance by altering the pitch contour of the dialogue, therefore adjusting the intonation of the speaker, and introducing Dialogue Dereverb, a module powered by machine learning to reduce the presence of reverberations around dialogue. RX7, a new frontier in audio repair.
Exactly, and you can get hold of Isotope RX technology if you just go to isotope.com and check it out. There's a 10-day unlimited demo, which is well worth checking out. We ran a competition last week for somebody to win, and in fact we have a winner, which our supercomputer picked, and I keep thinking it says Omnipulse, but it actually says On Impulse. On Impulse said, can it... sent a string of rather interesting icons and said, can it fix that? RX can fix it, RX7. So on Impulse, if you get in touch, we can also get your copy of RX7 to you. And we have another competition for this week. This will be the last one that will be announced on the January the 2nd. We're looking for, I went Christmassy, I went hashtag Christmas mixes, hashtag RX7 at Sonicstate and at Isotope Inc. So if you want to enter to win your New Year copy of our Isotope RX7, we're looking for the hashtag Christmas Mixes and the hashtag RX7 to at Isotope and at Sonicstate. There we go. I think I got that out. Which brings me sort of rather neatly, and I did actually start on this. That first topic used the whole show, the obligatory Christmas songs topic. We do occasionally have this. And there was a piece on, I'm just trying to look for it now. It was actually on Synthtopia initially. And it's a Christmas AI generated tunes. And they basically, what they did is this company fed like 100 MIDI files of Christmas hits into some sort of AI that they were running on a massive GPU, super powerful Amazon GPU instance, which is supercomputers. GPUs are often used for like really powerful real-time kind of neural networking kind of stuff. And they came up with a bunch of potential Christmas hits, which I think they could probably work on the voicing a little bit. So this is all AI created. Don't like that one. That's got a bit more creases, Christmassy to it. Basically, I must admit, I listened to all of them and I just thought, if that's the best AI has got to offer, then we're doomed. I thought, we were going to be getting into some real kind of Ian M. Banks kind of fantastic kind of new future, but that just sounds like there's no creative merit in any of that stuff. And I don't know, but I mean, I suppose the other thing is this kind of generates the whole concept of synthy Christmas hits. But let's start. Gaz, I don't know, the whole AI thing, I mean, sometimes you can hear things that really, it captures some kind of emotive or creative essence, but this felt really bereft of any of that to me.
Yeah, it's funny because, like, I'm sorry to mention the Noodler again, but I was thinking about like kind of generative music and how something like the Noodler isn't really you feel like you're kind of more in control, that it's doing what you want it to do, as opposed to maybe setting up a few. I mean, I'm guessing with these AI things, you're defining certain parameters and then letting it just sort of figure it all out. But yeah, I mean, it's a thing about that expressivity that is the essential human thing, is the thing that these AI things always seem to be missing, don't they? They seem to have lots
it seems to be a mathematical kind of exercise, doesn't it? Yeah. What's the question again?
I
don't know. I just had, but there's a great topic that just came. Great topic, potential topic for the show title, which was Mere AI Christmas. I like that. I might have to use that. That was. I'm just going to go back to that because I need to credit that. I can't remember who wrote it down. It's gone past so quickly. Thought Merry Christmas, very good. So that might well be the title. I don't know. I mean, AI seems to be doing very well in sort of semantics and language. That seems to be something that it could do because I suppose that there's no. I mean, with voices, I suppose there's emotive quality, but it's language is easier.
Yeah, music though, isn't it? It is about trying to communicate something and trying to express that thing, and what is the computer trying to express? I mean, it's a funny thing, isn't it? It's almost like the missing bit. It can do all of it except for that sense of narrative.
But it's funny, isn't it? Because if you think of AI as an extraction of technology, arpeggiators, sequencers, they are all over modern music, everywhere. And that's, in many cases, generative. It's just you play some notes in and you kind of mess around with the algorithm that then spits them out the other end. I'm not sure. What do you think about that, Dave? Because, I mean, could you argue that AI is already being employed in some way? I mean, or what is AI, I suppose, when it comes to music creation?
Oh, I know.
Two big questions.
Well, it is in journalism. I know that. I went to a meeting not that long ago, a big talk where they're actually AI machines are churning out articles in the style of certain writers, and that has all sorts of implications for whether it's truthfully written, or truthfully. Well, it would be nice, wouldn't it, if you could do a review and it would come up. You just press the button and it would go through a series of routines and write something in your style of prose. But that has all sorts of dodgy implications. I think Gaz is right, but I would refer to it more as taste. I have never heard anything tasteful come out of AI. But I suppose that's
I've never heard anything tasteful coming out of me either. So that would kind of counter that.
Well, there you go. You see, AI by its nature is not self-deprecating, so maybe it needs to learn a little bit of self-deprecation in order to become more human. I like this. Well, I only like this because actually on Christmas Day, my missus goes, "I'll put some Christmas music on," and I've now bookmarked this, and I'm just going to have it on fucking rotate the entire day until they plead with me to turn it off.
It's very simple and basic. I mean, it was all just sort of 16th gated kind of stuff without actually any lyrical expression or phrasing or anything. So I suppose that's not really helping much. But yeah. I don't know. I'm the same. I like it, but we must be getting it in programming. Like AI, Spotify must employ it in terms of playlist creation. I'm sure iTunes must do, where you go Christmas hits or whatever, and it comes from sort of cloud or cloud source data, which is maybe tagged or titled, and then it just goes, these are probably Christmas tunes, and maybe figures out the beats and the tempo. I mean, I'm sure it happens all the time. I know, Matt. I mean, is this something that you cover in education? I mean, because it's in a weird way, it's the future, I suppose, to some degree. Whether or not we adopt it is questionable.
Yeah, and Dave's right. Particularly in journalism, and we run journalism courses as well. We're certainly looking at it there. We are looking at a music business in terms of analytics and data, and actually how that is being used and generated using AI. And then there's, of course, in music. And you could argue, things like your auto-tuning, arpeggiation, sequencing, all that kind of thing is an element of that, maybe a precursor to where we're going with AI. There's certainly getting AI right in some places, though, in the cyber world with robots and data mining and that kind of thing.
Yeah, I suppose so.
That's all working, but it's amazing how we can do that, and yet they can only come up with music that sounds like that. I really struggle with that. You've got machines that scare the hell out of me, that you think are going to be like the Terminator, taking over the world. And
I suspect there's probably more resources going into the Terminator sort of type stuff than there is in emulating Christmas music. But yeah, I take your point.
I mean, it's not quite Shekin Stevens yet, is it, or Slade by the sounds of it? But
no,
you can hear what they've done. They've kind of inputted the kind of intervals. You can hear the intervals there in the music that they're using in the notes, I think, and our cultural understanding of what we think of
what
as
sounds Christmassy.
Traditional, that kind of thing. It's a starting point, but I think things like this are exponential. I think they get better a lot quicker than than in a linear form. They just AI and music, I think, and this is maybe going back to something we talked about, something for 2019, even 2010. I would say that we're going to see a growth in this and a big development in this, and it wouldn't surprise me if manufacturers out there are looking at, should we be including AI more into our groove boxes, our drum machines, our synthesizers, our software?
I suppose it depends where the interfacing is, because I mean, like Loop Cloud uses AI and semantic stuff for analyzing tags and for analyzing audio to create auto tags for their stuff. I'm just throwing that back in there. So I suppose, but I mean, the other thing is, if you take a classic melody and tune with feeling and expression and have AI arrange it in a more in various different styles, then that could certainly, and I'm sure is already working. So that kind of the adaptation of the initial human input or the initial human expression, that's where AI can work. But to the sort of like press a button and make me a hit record isn't. I'm really keen to explore what an auto depreciate algorithm might do to your music, whether one has it all automatically built in, or whether what it would do. So if you're being perhaps a bit too bombastic and confident in your vocal delivery, it would shut you down a bit and maybe close the filter down on that strident synth a little bit more, so it all becomes a bit more muted and less kind of up front and a bit more sort of, oh, I don't know about this, it's all right.
I can certainly see it in terms of mixes and stuff, with sibilance and various things. I'm very interested in it in terms of drum machines and rhythms, because actually I think that's quite a good starting block.
Because it is mathematical, isn't it?
Start with exactly, and it's very, and you start with a kind of basic thing, and then based on the interpretations. A million years ago, I used to record loads of great drummers on MIDI kits, and then I'd have to go in and edit it and whatnot, and you could see where someone was pushing it or where someone was pulling it back a little bit, and actually you can turn a very straight groove into something really interesting. And I like the idea of something, giving you options, but also based on the way a real drummer plays a real kit. In this, you don't have a cymbal crash at the same time as a hi-hat is played and all that kind of stuff.
Well, those sort of rules,
got two arms. So just interpreting those and I think for me that's interesting. Melodically, I still believe, in fact, with all of it, I still believe that you've got to have a human at the end of the chain to act as a kind of taste filter, I suppose, to go no, or actually that's pretty good.
Yeah, it's interesting though, Matt, because I mean, in modular world, auto-generative stuff, where you're effectively setting up your big modular brain behind you to kind of do things that you're ultimately in control of. I mean, it's a lot of that isn't, I don't know if it's AI, it's like, it is a kind of computational process or an electronic process.
Yeah. It is completely, but it's totally intentional, and it's totally designed by the user at that time for a desired outcome, in terms of how you're going to patch something, to modulate something, to do something in a particular way. Yes, it is doing it itself once you've set it up, but you've got to set it up, and then it'll only stay doing that until you ask it to do something else again. So it's not like, unless someone turns the power off or something like that. So I get what you're saying. But I think it's definitely much more, in some ways, in a lot of ways, even when you go out on a stage with modular or whatever, because you're not using a laptop and you're not using stems and that kind of thing, and you're actually creating something there in front of people. This actually brings it more back to being a real played performative instrument that you're jamming with in the same way that you would with a guitar or bass or something like that. But I know what you're saying. I was really playing devil's advocate there, really. But I just thought if there are any similarities, you're right, of course. I was wondering if there's any other topics, because I didn't really. I did. Oh yeah, I tell you what. Let's. Should we have a quick look at this? This is something. This might actually fit with one of the other topics, which was kind of what you're going to do over the Christmas holidays. And one thing you could do is possibly this.
Good morning, YouTube. Wow. Okay.
This is from Leo Makes.
I had no
basically,
idea
he
so
made-
many people were into plate reverbs or IKEA.
He made a plate reverb out of an IKEA shelf, a contact mic, and a pickup. I think.
That
no,
was
little
amazing. And
speaker.
thank you. If you're one
I'll
of the
fast
many
forward this because
subscribers,
essentially you
welcome
want to
the
get to the money
channel.
shot. This, which is where he's built this whole thing. Contact mics. It's about $100, and then it goes through the whole thing. This is Mark II because the first one sounded quite interesting.
Now, if we go back to the plate here, I actually don't have a good solution yet for dampening the plate. I have the same scarf as before, and what we can do is just sort of lean the scarf up against the plate. You can hear it. You can hear it cut down the reverb.
That feels like a classic. If you have a man in a shed moment, that's kind of what you could possibly do over the Christmas holidays. If you've kind of thought, everything's stopping for a bit, I'm going to, I finish my album, I'm going to make a plate reverb, I'm going to do what? Or, Dave, I'm going to...
What?
I don't know, over the Christmas holidays. And do you have like a set aside for that thing that you kind of, that's the musical equivalent of man in shed that you want to just sort of have a bit of time to noodle or to explore a particular instrument or technique or thing or whatever?
I've got 3 sessions booked between Christmas and New Year.
Wow.
That's pretty good. Where I will actually be playing real, genuine keyboards with somebody. Yeah, no, weird. But he's coming over from France, and we're going to have 3 days together. And it sounds like a completely epic track. I did talk to you and Gaz about it last week after the show, but I can't say any more than that. But that's what I'm going to be doing, and actually, that's really exciting. Although the depressing side is that the studio will need cleaning.
It's
before.
work, I suppose, as well.
Well, no, actually, I think it'll be really good fun because it's kind of, it's non-techie and I'll just get to play. And this guy sounds like a lot of fun.
Oh, well, that sounds good.
Yes.
That's a good idea. What about you guys? Have you got anything planned?
I got a bunch of gigs, which is always fun around this time. I'm going to try and do more live streams. So, like, I am going to be streaming later today. I'm going to try and do more of that because I just really enjoy it. But just, I just mentioned about this plate thing, though, is sort of, I remember years ago when I first experienced a real EMT plate, having only experienced, I think, SPX 90 sort of algorithm version of it before, but and then hearing a real one and just how alive and sparkly and amazing the real one was, and just like, oh, and actually this studio sold it super cheap. I mean, super cheap. God, there was everyone was just getting rid of them, weren't they, in the 90s?
Well, they just take up so much space, don't they?
Huge, huge. But wow, I was just like, I can't believe just how much that is beautiful and alive, and I've never really experienced that. I mean, I don't know. Well, with with algorithmic or even convolution versions of plates, this still is something maybe just. I feel the same about springs as well. To be fair, that I still haven't really experienced emulated springs that are as deep, dark, and as mysterious as the real thing. And then with plates, they're beautiful things. So this, I'm quite tempted to build one, actually.
Well, you've got an IKEA just round the corner as well, haven't you?
I know. So I've got very little excuse. So I am quite tempted because it is one of those things. I think because of the and the fact that you can manipulate it, like the guy was doing it with the scarf there.
I wonder what happens if you bend it. Because when you bend metal, you get different properties. If you could have a way so that it could be still resonant but bendy as well.
Modulate, like a modulation bend, like a wobble, wobble.
Put on a foot pedal.
Yeah. Well, okay. That sounds interesting. That's an interesting idea. Yeah, I like the sound of that. That sounds like fun. I think I don't have any plans for any of that stuff over Christmas. I think because a lot of my kind of DIY tendencies tend to get sort of used up for things like NAMM, where I examine our workflow and I go, it wouldn't be good if this was automated or this, we didn't have to do this anymore. We could just use something like that. So I've kind of get into all of that Raspberry Pi nonsense and writing things. And I've been using, trying to figure out what I can use the touch bar on this Mac for. And I've figured out a couple of things, because one of the things, whenever we shoot something here, we record everything to disk, but we always keep the SD cards, so because they record in 4K, so a couple of times we might use that and we'll copy them in, and it's just like you have to put it in the computer, you have to open up the packages, you have to name it. And now I've written these couple of buttons, so I just put, for NAMM, I've got this thing where any SD card that goes into one of these computers, it will automatically, if we put a little text file on the SD card, it'll name any of the files with whatever's on that text file and the today's date, and then copy all of that to a network drive, and that's just put it in and it just automatically goes. And I'm trying to do stuff like that here, so it's just I put it in, go, yeah, I want to call it that, yeah, off you go. And so those things are the tedious aspect of working with video. I don't know that, so I've done all of that, so I probably won't do anything. I'd like to watch some telly, Matt, maybe. I don't know, Matt, what about you?
I tend to spend this time of year sort of doing admin and getting stuff ready for 2019. So with my releases coming out and a bit of a tour schedule for next year, which is taking up a lot of time to organise. So that is all happening over. I'm doing a rebrand of my artist persona name and that kind of thing. So I won't be going under the name Matthew Hodson anymore, which I'll be maybe announcing over Christmas. So there's things like websites, rebranding, photo shoots, marketing, planning 2019 in terms of gigs, release schedules, music videos, press photography, all of that kind of stuff, really. And now's a good time to do that, I find, because otherwise I'm not one of those who wants to sit down and watch TV for 8 hours a day over Christmas and eat chocolates and stuff like that. But I'd much rather be doing something, and it tends to be quiet this time of year. So getting into places like to do photo shoots is pretty easy. Or if you want to do a music video somewhere, you can get in there pretty easy, and the rates may be a little bit cheaper because not many people are using it. So that can be useful. And just sitting there and doing some admin. If you are going to sit down and have some family time, I can sit there with the laptop and I can be on WordPress developing my new website and that kind of thing. Also, just pushing the live streaming a little bit harder as well, like Gaz was saying. So I've bought some new lights recently, and I'm just looking at stepping that up a little bit more. And I'm going to be using some new software. Have you seen the OBS Streamlabs software? It's pretty cool. It's PC only at the minute. But,
I have. It's like an open source thing, isn't it?
So they had OBS, which is just for streaming, but now they've got this thing called OBS Streamlabs, which allows you to do, it's just really cool interface on it, and it's very, very versatile. So I'm going to have a separate machine running that, so I need to set that machine up and interface it with my equipment here, and just get cameras set up and that kind of thing. So a lot of that thing, really, and also spending time in the studio. So I'm at a good point at the moment.
Wow.
I've managed set myself up at a point where I can use this time constructively. I'm not going to be spending 2 weeks rewiring a studio. The studio's just been rewired to allow me to have this time.
Rock. Wow.
Yeah, it's ready to rock.
Sounds like you're going to be really busy. If you get all of that stuff done in the Christmas break, then, good for you. I mean, that's impressive. And kudos for actually being grown up enough to plan things like that. I tend to be very reactive and spontaneous when it comes to let's do something like that. But then when I do it, I'll spend a week planning it or 2 weeks planning it when I've decided. Yeah. But good for you. Well, I think this is probably a good time to maybe consider our Christmas special, for I feel it was special after all, come to an end. And I want to say thank you very much to everybody. Also, thank you so much to all of the guests who've been on the show over the last 12 months, and maybe who can't make it. Happy Christmas to all of you people, and also all of you people, the listeners and the viewers and all of that. I hope you will have a good break, whatever your denomination may be, whatever time you want to spend doing, then I hope you enjoy that time. So before we go, I'll just quickly say again, a thank you to Isotope for supporting the show over the year. And remember, you can enter to win the first copy of RX7 next year, which we're looking for the hashtag Christmas Mixes and the hashtag RX7 to @Sonicstate and @Isotope Inc. So that'll enter you in. And then on January the 2nd, where our next show is, we will be able to announce a winner for that. But thank you, guys. Dave, thanks ever so much for joining us. I hope you have a lovely Christmas. And your album, I can't wait to see that. That looks like a really good film. That's exciting.
I'll send you one, Dan. Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah. If you don't listen to the music, it's worth it for the artwork alone. people will know what an idiot I am.
Oh, that sounds like a really good fun. But thank you, Dave, and
thank you.
All the best to you and yours, and of course, Matt as well. Thanks for joining us this year, because I think you entered the fray this year, and thank you for joining us. It's been a great addition to the team.
Thanks. Really enjoyed it. Thanks. Thanks for having me and for putting up with me. And Merry Christmas, everyone. Thanks, and it's been great, and it was great to meet you all as well this year and what have you. So yeah, cool. Have a great Christmas, everyone.
We will indeed. And Gaz, of course, a Merry Christmas to you, and I hope we will speak again very soon.
Oh, I'm sure we will. I totally forgot to mention earlier that I got up on stage with Chic last night.
Oh, did you?
Did you do the dancing at the end?
I did, yeah. Did you do that? Yeah, it's great fun, isn't it? Yeah, so obviously courtesy of our glorious Mr. Hilton. I tell you what, Rich Hilton is such a player. He is top notch. He is such a good player. And so courtesy, me and my wife managed to get up on stage and have a little bop around on the last tune, which was quite fun. But
such a moment.
It is, isn't it? It's brilliant. And Niall he's just the dude, isn't he? He's just such a cool guy.
One of the most amazing live bands.
Oh,
I mean, honestly, it wasn't. It was literally. It's just like I didn't go last night, but when I saw them here, it's literally like hit after hit after hit after hit after hit.
Yeah.
And as musicians, they are all exemplary.
They are very, very good.
Yeah, amazing.
Well, happy Christmas to you, Rich, as well.
Yeah, definitely.
Because he couldn't make it. He's got a big show at the O2 tonight, I think.
Jerry. Awesome. So I'd had a lot of fun, and I got to. God, what happened? I was with Robbie Bronneman as well, but Robbie refused to go on stage, so he
took the video.
He did actually.
Excellent. Oh, brilliant. And what a nice way to end the year. I'm ashamed I couldn't get to the 20 of those shows. It's just been a very busy period, but hopefully I'll get to slow down a bit after the weekend, so that'll be a lot of fun. But guys, it's that time where we wave ourselves off. Happy Christmas to you all, and happy Christmas to all you out there watching. Thank you very much for watching.
Yeah.
See you next time.
Happy holidays. Hey, bye.
Bye.